Infrastructure Committee. I do detect a quorum, and we will begin. We'll start the meeting with a public comment period pursuant to Tennessee Public Chapter number 300. Each speaker is allowed up to 2 minutes to speak, and they are required to register ahead of time. Today we have one speaker who is registered, and we'll begin with that public comment period. Is Taurus McCain present?
Yes.
Yes, sir. You ready to start the timer? Or
30 seconds.
all right. Mr. McCain, if you'll just give us your name and your address, and then the floor is yours for 2 minutes.
Great. My name is Taurus McCain. I live at 3021 Boyneview Boulevard in Bardo. I'm a resident of Bardo. I was brought home from Baptist Hospital to Bordeaux, so Bordeaux means a lot to me. I stay, if you've lived in Nashville for over 10 years, you should know the fight that Bordeaux has always had with the dump. I have an issue. We just found out, the community of Bordeaux just found out that we have a 52,000 square foot recycling plant that's being built right off of Ashland City Highway, where the current Southern Services dump site is. And to a lot of those baby boomers who remember all white signs only, a lot of those 70 and 80-year-old women living in Bordeaux who've been fighting this fight are discouraged and disheartened because we stopped the expansion of Southern Services landfill, only to find out that in their minds they see the recycling plant as a backdoor to reopening up the dump. And we haven't been communicated with, and I see this, and I work with Councilman Hall to get the Jackson Law done. I testified at the Solid Waste Board twice for the expansion and Jackson Law. I learned a little bit about recycling. It's a must. I agree. I actually agree with this plan, this bill. I think it's a great plan. It's what they do in California. And to make it sustainable, recycling, it needs to be sorted, construction debris needs to be sorted at the site. And I see this bill as the sustainability and viability for the recycling plant in Bordeaux. So I want us to talk about it more before we pass it, because that's our only leverage at this point, because we can't stop them from building the recycling plant.
Thank you, Mr. McCain. Your time has expired, but we very, very much appreciate your comments. And if you're interested in hanging around, and I don't think the committee meeting will take that long, we can talk with you also individually further about this. So very much appreciate your comments. And again, we'll speak with you after the committee if you'd like to hang around.
Sure. Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, we will now begin with the agenda, and we'll go through all of the items on consent. I'll call them out by number, and if anything needs to be pulled, let me know, and then I'll read the captions, and if you want, you'll have another opportunity to pull at that point. RS 2023-2322, 2323, 2324, 2325, 2326, bills on second reading, BL 2023-2004, 2006, 2019, 2020, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, 2031, 2032, 2033. Okay, I guess that's the end of consent agenda. And 1888. Does any need to come off that you notice immediately? Seeing none, I'll read the captions. You'll have another opportunity to pull at that time. RS 2023-2322, Allen and other sponsors approves an intergovernmental agreement between Metropolitan Government and the Electric Power Board relating to the installation, maintenance, and operation of streetlights and public rights-of-way and the conversion of streetlights to use LED fixtures. RS 2023-2323 classifies public roads in Davidson County, Tennessee. RS 2023-2324, Sledge and other sponsors accepts donations totaling $1,074,000 from property owners and developers as contributions toward construction of multimodal transportation improvements in the Wedgwood, Houston, and Chestnut Hill neighborhoods. RS 2023-2325, Roten and other sponsors approves a license and maintenance agreement between Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewage Services and Nashville Downtown Partnership for the installation and maintenance of storm drain filters in the downtown area. RS 2023-2326, Roten and other sponsors approves Amendment 1 to a contract between Metropolitan Government and Waste Management Incorporated of Tennessee for the purpose of solid waste collection and collection of carts. BL 2023-2004, Allen and other sponsors amends Title II of the Metropolitan Code to create a Sustainability Advisory Committee to guide Nashville and Davidson County's efforts to increase sustainability and resilience and further community livability and economic competitiveness. BL 2023-2006, Parker and other sponsors designates the Department of Codes Administration and Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure to meet the definition of police department as authorized in Tennessee Code Section 55-16-103, Section 6, and as used in that part, and to amend Section 6.80.540 of the Metropolitan Code for the limited purposes of allowing codes and NDOT to also authorize the removal of abandoned vehicles by towing or transportation by emergency wrecker licenses in emergency circumstances as defined in Chapter 6.80, Article 5 of the Metropolitan Code. BL 2023-2019, Taylor and other sponsors authorizes Park West Investments Partners, LLC to install, construct, and maintain underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at 3415 Murphy Road. BL 2023-2020, Withers and other sponsors authorizes LMC Town Property Owner, LLC to install, construct, and maintain encroachments in the right-of-way located at 808 Garfield Street. BL 2023-2022, Welsh and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan Government to accept permanent and temporary easements for the Mashburn Road Stormwater Improvement Project for 3 properties located at 2822 Mashburn Road and 133 and 134 East Thompson Lane. BL 2023-2023, Withers and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan Government to abandon a portion of existing public stormwater drainage easement rights for property located at 7330 Tolbert Road. BL 2023-2024, Cash and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan Government to accept a new public sanitary sewer manhole for property located at 2803 12th Avenue South. BL 2023-2025, Toombs and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan Government to accept new public sanitary sewer manholes and easements for 2 properties located at 3465 and 3453 West Hamilton Avenue. BL 2023-2026, Toombs and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan Government to accept a new public water main for 2 properties located at 1100 Spurgeon Avenue and 1400 B Napoleon Street. BL 2023-2027, Withers and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan Government to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for 2 properties located at 1306 Rural Hill Road and 727 Bell Road. BL 2023-2028, Swope and other sponsors authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at Zermatt Avenue unnumbered. BL 2023-2029, Taylor and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan Government to abandon existing public water main, sanitary sewer main, and sanitary sewer manhole, and to accept new public water main, sanitary sewer main, and sanitary sewer manhole for property located at 1801 Patterson Street. Bill 2023-2031, Withers and other sponsors, authorize the Metropolitan government to abandon existing public water and sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes and easements, and to accept new water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assembly, sanitary sewer manholes and easements for two properties located at 301 15th Avenue North and 302 McMillan Street. Bill 2023-2032, Withers and other sponsors, authorize the Metropolitan government to abandon existing public water and sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes and easements, and to accept new public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole and easements for six properties located at Victory Avenue, South 1st Street, Shelby Avenue, Woodland Street, Titans Way, and Russell Street. BL 2023-2033, Withers and other sponsors, authorizes the Metropolitan government to accept new public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes and easements for two properties located at 9784 Concord Road and Glenmore Lane, unnumbered, in Williamson County. BL 2023-1888, Pulley sponsors, amends the Metropolitan Code by changing the name of Stormwater Management Committee to the Stormwater Management Commission. That is the consent agenda. Does anybody need to pull anything off? All right, it's moved, properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. We will now move to bills on second reading. BL 2023-1882, O'Connell and other sponsors, creates Chapter 2.153 of the Metropolitan Code, establishing a bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee. Do I have a motion? Moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment and a late filed amendment I would like to offer, starting with just the amendment.
Sure.
Timely filed one.
You want to move the amendment?
Yes, with a brief explanation.
Okay. Moved. Do I hear a second? Moved and properly seconded. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So the BPAC was something that existed in previous administrations and did a great job of advocating for better infrastructure for bikes and sidewalks and just multiple ways to get people out of cars and moving in other ways that is good for health and traffic and everything. And it had fallen by the wayside. So the purpose of this bill is to recreate this as a commission so that it will endure beyond different administrations, which I fully support. It does affect greenways, and I serve on the Greenways Commission, and that group just wanted some extra time to review the language as it referred to greenways, and it just took a while to make that happen. So that group has met, has settled on language, which is before you in this, and it essentially does several things. It changes the membership from simply suggesting a list of different types to choose the 13 members from, to specifically reserving a slot for Greenways for Nashville and Walk Bike Nashville, because those are the two top advocacy groups and really should have a spot on there. It also further tries to, I think, leave the language a little more open with regard to micro-mobility and how that interacts with greenways. Micro-mobility is not necessarily only electric vehicles, but it includes that. And there's still conversation going on about where those two intersections. So this amendment simply keeps that conversation open without making any assumptions. And then the late filed, I'll explain in just a minute, but those are the two. And then we add some definitions just to clarify what micromobility is.
So we got the first amendment that is not late filed on the floor right now. Is there any discussion on the proposed amendment by Councilmember Allen? Councilmember Young.
Thank you. Just a question. You have the timely filed amendment, but then are you going to move for the late substitute? Because if you do, that's going to override your timely filed amendment.
So they're intricately involved, and I will discuss all three of them and see what the body wants to do. But the First Amendment is the key items. There's some cleanup stuff, and then there's an item for discussion. So this is my favorite. I really want this one to pass, and then we'll work our way through the others.
Okay. Just check. Thank you.
Appreciate that clarification. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you for recognizing me, though I'm not a member of this particular committee, Chair. So I believe we're on I've been running around, just got here. The little storm was crazy. we're on the timely filed amendment. This
That's
is
correct.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So my concern about this is it seems to kind of run top to tail of the bill and kind of blunt or soften the actual impact that this committee might have in planning processes and in reviews and whatnot. Like, I believe it takes from the language, forgive me, it's been a couple of days to review this, has moved from like an advisory role to a can offer information role, or I forget the exact language that was in the amendment. So I guess I'm just trying to understand, I mean, those of us who, cycle for transportation in this town, I mean, I would say that us in the advocacy community largely feel like there is already an outsized influence of automobiles and there's already an outsized influence of the status quo. And so that when I see what appears to me like kind of a softening of the impactful aspects of the original legislation in the amendment, I'm just kind of wondering what's driving that? Why do we feel like that input needs to be blunted or if the sponsor would like to respond, that would be appreciated.
Councilmember Allen, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, thank you. So the great question. And that is largely driven by just the question being raised, what authority do commissions have to, the language that was there was provide guidance and serve as a resource for the Department of Transportation, multimodal infrastructure, parks, and planning in developing long-range plans. And just in checking with both Hannah and the departments, just in terms of what commissions typically do, that the consensus from the people that I asked in the metro departments was that providing guidance is language that implies that those agencies will be bound by what that guidance is, as opposed to coming to it as a resource, and that seemed to put them above what other commissions do. And then likewise, there was some shall language in there that said that, thank you for pointing that out because I did forget to bring those up, that said that the departments shall work cooperatively with, and they should work cooperatively, so I don't think that was the problem, but shall provide assistance as requested by the BPAC. That was turned around to simply say that the BPAC would work cooperatively with those and request assistance. So it's you're correct. I think it is simply moving that to what typically is the level of authority that those commissions have. It certainly is not intended to not have the BPAC be an important group to advocate and to work with all the different departments and agencies to advocate for change and to be in a position of reference for all of those committees, because that's what it did so very effectively before.
Thank you for that. Councilman Parker, you have a follow-up?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sure. So my understanding of that is that the way it's drafted, perhaps if there's an update to, say, the walk and bike plan, that would sort of, the language that's in the original bill would say that, okay, y'all need to bring that draft version before this commission and get a recommendation. But I mean, I don't think the actual Department of INDOT would be bound by that recommendation. It would simply allow the BPAC to say, we support this new version, or we have these suggestions, or et cetera. I don't think that the original language in my read would override INDOT's ability to say, well, no, this is the update we're taking to the city council, or this body's ability to make amendments to that plan when it comes before us. So I guess I just think that I'm personally in favor of the language that's in the original bill, and I'll be voting against this amendment on the floor for that reason, because I think that those sorts of changes to our big plans should come before this body for a recommendation. Now, they can't do a binding change to it, but I do think it should come to this body for recommendation at least.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. I think those are good points. I would defer to Ms. Darby just to comment on whether either of those precludes all those things coming before this group and they're making a recommendation, and if either of those languages is more compatible with the role of commissions relative to departments.
The way I look at the language, I think that the question here is between provide guidance and serve as a resource. provide guidance implies that the commission would come up with the guidance first and then go to the committee or go to the departments. The serve as a resource language implies that the departments would go to the commission to ask for assistance and ask for them as a resource to do whatever work it is that needs to be done. I don't believe that either one serves as a mandatory type of action, so that the commission would, if the provide guidance language was left, the commission providing guidance, the guidance that the commission was providing would not be mandatory for the department. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions? Councilmember Young?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the points that Councilmember Parker raises are pretty valid. And something else I think, and this happens in other spots of Metro Code that I don't really like, is that naming specifically, say, Walk Back Nashville or Greenways for Nashville, having specific seats when when we're codifying that, and there are times when one might go away and another come along, or they change or whatever. And I think maybe the onus should be on the mayor and the council just to make sure that the right people are being appointed. But I do like the language better as the bill as it's written, that it's providing guidance. I feel like we might just be mincing words, but I really strongly agree with Councilman Parker on that, and I'll have to be against the amendment. I'm sorry, Councilmember Allen.
Councilmember Allen?
I will respond with, again, I'm trying to speak for the Greenways Commission because I serve on that body. My goal is to ensure that this thing passes, but it's also to ensure that the Greenways Commission feels like they have been a part of this discussion and that their opinion has been valued, because it does deal with greenways, and I think all intentions were good, but sometimes it is hard to have gotten around to every single organization that you're touching before things get introduced, and that's sort of the case here. So some of this is just playing catch up. If that is a deal breaker, I would be willing to make a floor amendment to leave the providing guidance part in. That may make a few Greenway commissioners unhappy, but I think their key thing is just ensuring that they have a place at the table, because it does deal with greenways, and that there is openness to the relationship between micromobility and greenways. So, I would love everybody's support. I think the bill is important. I think creating the committee is the key thing, and we're doing that. Creating with everybody's support is likewise important, and that includes Walk Bike Nashville as well. So I think I'll wait and see what the committee does, and if need be, if that's an important enough issue, then I'm happy to discuss that and make adjustments.
Okay, thanks for that. I will ask, does Councilmember Parker or Councilmember Young want to comment on the proposed floor amendment that Councilmember Allen just mentioned?
Thank you, Chair. So as I understand the proposed floor amendment, that would be to not include the language change from related to advisory versus guidance, or resource versus guidance, or whatever the change is there. I think that if the goal of the amendment is to ensure that Greenways folks have a seat at the table, let me just say that we've got some great council members here that are likely going to be with us again for the next term, and I think they're going to be able to advocate for a Greenways perspective on this body effectively, whether that particular piece of the amendment goes on there or not. But what if we tailored the amendment down to just that piece? Would that satisfy just the adding a Greenways and a walk bike person? Would that accomplish what Councilmember Allen is looking to do?
Councilmember Allen.
Again, I would just say the Greenways Commission asked for the opportunity to review this and comment. They had a number of comments. I worked hard with them to try to come up with what I thought was a reasonable compromise that allowed their opinions to be included. And I feel like if the guidance piece is not a mandatory thing, which was their concern, I'm happy changing that language in those two places, and hopefully that addresses yours. And then my hope is that then we've addressed the concerns that have been raised with regard to this amendment.
I don't know if it quite addresses your concerns about the two mandatory components here. Councilmember Young?
Mr. Chair, I don't think we'll ever address all my concerns if that's what we're in the business of doing.
Okay, well, I just wanted to address that comment. So
Thank you, Chair.
appreciate that. Councilmember Hurt? Oops, it won't let me let you in for some reason. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask for at least a one-meeting deferral, and maybe they can go back and discuss this and come up with something for all of the parties, because I appreciate the work that the sponsor has done, but considering that there's still some unrest about it, perhaps there needs to be a little bit more discussion in regards to it.
Are you moving a deferral?
I did ask for a deferral, yes.
Okay, there is a motion for a deferral on the floor. Is there a second? I hear a second. Now we are on the deferral. Councilmember Allen.
On the deferral. This has been deferred several times. That would make this an indefinite deferral, and there's not enough time to bring it back. I think everybody wants the BPAC to be formed. I think, at this point, these are fine points. I think whatever we end up with will give us a BPAC that will have support. So I would ask people to vote against the deferral. There's been a lot of back and forth. If we had time, it would be lovely to be able to do it face to face, but that just hadn't been able to be scheduled, and I'm sorry for that. But I would ask for us to keep it moving, and if we need to tweak it in the next term, we can.
Any other comments on the deferral? On deferral, Councilmember Cash.
I also am against the deferral. I think we have had a lot of talk about this. I think there are a lot of folks that are excited about the opportunity this commission can afford us and can offer us. And I hear what folks are saying about the amendment. I don't know that I feel super strongly either way on it, and am going to support the BPAC regardless of how the amendment plays out. And I think we should move forward.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Cash. Councilmember Young.
Ditto.
Any other comments on the deferral? So we are on the deferral motion. The motion is to defer one meeting. All in favor, raise your hands. All opposed, raise your hands. Deferral motion is defeated. Now we're back on the proposed amendment. Any other comments on or discussion on the proposed amendment? Okay, we're voting on the timely filed proposed amendment by Councilmember Allen, which we just got finished discussing. So we'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have 1, 2, 3. I'm no on this as well. So let's go with the hands. Let's go back to those who are in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6 4. Is that what you got? Okay. Proposed amendment passes. Okay, now let's move. Do you want to move your late amendment, Councilmember Allen?
Yes. Let's at least have a discussion on it. So the late filed amendment is late because there was a glitch in noticing the Greenways Commission meeting that was supposed to happen last Friday, so it couldn't actually happen until Monday, but there were a group of people who could meet in an unnoticed way that came up with the timely filed amendment because we wanted to get something on the books. When the Greenways Commission did finally meet, it was on Monday, and so the late filed amendment, incorporates a couple of other comments that were made at the Greenways Commission yesterday, and that reflects their further comments. And so that's, again, it's just an attempt to respect the wishes of the Greenways Commission. So what the late filed amendment does is simply makes the statement, again, just reminding that Parks has policies with regard to micromobility, and it just wanted that to be acknowledged in the bill. And then, again, because we had defined micromobility, taking those straight from either state definitions or from definitions elsewhere in the code, this also adds the definition of greenway straight from the Metro Code where it's defined in Division 17. So that's all this late filed amendment does, is makes that one statement about Parks policy and adds a definition for greenways.
Okay, thank you. Are we okay with our quorum here? We good? I think we are. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Is there any discussion on the proposed late filed amendment by Councilmember Allen? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have 2 in opposition. There's a third one? Okay. What's the total? All right, amendment passes 4 in favor, 3 against. Now, do you want to move the late substitute, Councilmember Allen?
No.
Okay, late substitute will not be moved, so we are now on the bill as amended twice. Would you like to comment on it any further before we open up other discussion, Councilmember
Thank you.
Allen?
Thank you for that opportunity. Just to say, again, I think the BPAC is great. I'm excited it's coming back. I would love for all groups to be supportive, including Greenways, because they are an important part of the bike and pedestrian network. And so having their support, I think, is a welcome thing. So I hope we have reached that point, and I would ask for people to support this as amended and amended. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Seeing none, bill as amended passes. Thank you for that, Councilman. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, you're a no on the bill as amended. Oh, not voting. Okay, we've got Councilmember Bradford not voting. Thank you, Councilmember Bradford. Appreciate you pointing that out. All right, so bill as amended passes. We now, or is recommended for approval, excuse me. Now we'll move to BL 2023-1993, Allen and other sponsors amends Chapter 10.20 Waste Management and Title 16 Building and Construction of the Metropolitan Code to add the requirement that construction and demolition materials be diverted from landfills. Moved, properly seconded. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move an amendment with a brief explanation.
All right, we have a timely filed and a late amendment. So, Council, I'm assuming we're moving the timely filed amendment now. Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Moved and properly seconded.
Again, this is putting into place part of our zero waste master plan, which is to move forward in our plans to recycle construction and demolition waste. This sets forth the timetable to, over a staged period, beginning in July of 2024, begin to recycle materials that are easily recyclable, like cardboard and metal, and then to move on to harder things like concrete and CMU, and ultimately perhaps drywall, if the market for that is in place by then. So that's what the bill does in general. This amendment is a reflection of a meeting with the folks that would actually be implementing this, who just wanted to clarify some language with regard to timing and to ensure that this wouldn't create another onerous permitting process that would then add extended time to their construction process. So through discussions with those, we've come up with several changes to that simply ensure that, number one, that the fees will be based, as they always are, on the cost of Metro to implement a program, and that review will be done in a timely fashion, and in that if the final review is something that would slow the process down, that the project could go ahead and get a use and occupancy permit while still working through the final details of that. And Jen Harmon is here, who may be able to add fine points to my explanation if I've left out anything important.
Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Jen Harmon, Waste Services. Just a finer point on that is the last point that Councilmember Allen made was that it would allow us to incorporate a temporary certificate of occupancy so that the permitting process can continue moving forward. So if there's part of this legislation would require some documentation from whoever they're sending the material to, so that allows the applicants to gather that without having to prevent them from occupying their building and moving the project forward.
Thank you for that. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, amendment passes. Do you want to move the late amendment?
Sure. Yeah, let's go ahead and move it.
Okay.
And the late amendment is a further refinement of language, and I will again defer to Jen to explain what that is.
Yes, it essentially does kind of what I just said. It just further ensures that the permitting process is not going to be held up. So we removed one word, temporary, and made it sure that that final certificate of occupancy, again, would not be held up in the permitting process. So just some clarification of language.
I think you moved it. Did I hear a second? Okay, got a second. So any discussion on the late amendment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Late amendment is recommended for approval. Now we're on the bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And now, in response to, again, a little bit more brief explanation. What this is creates a recycling process that ideally is recycling on site, which will keep all this material from ever needing to go anywhere other than straight to a place that's going to turn it into some new product, which I think is a huge improvement. It does also still allow for recycling processing at a processing facility, which is in theory the Metro Waste Services has been working with several different providers to ensure both that there are options, which we have learned is always good, so that none of this is all going to one place. But because I have heard concerns from one community that this could have an impact on them, and that while there has been, you know, as we always do, there has been a series of public meetings and virtual meetings, and both specifically on this bill and also related to the processing facility. There is often a component of the community that has missed out on that communication and still needs that information. So I would like to move for a one meeting deferral so that we can ensure that we've at least begun that communication process. And then we can revisit this. There's still time to finish up the second and third reading, but I just feel like it's important for that community to feel like their concerns have been heard.
All right, there's been a motion on the floor for a one meeting deferral, seconded. Any comments, Councilmember Hurd?
Yes, I thank the sponsor for asking for that deferral, because I've heard from the community and they are very much concerned, considering that a lot of the landfills and recycling and all of the things that they see bad comes to that community, and there's no real true engagement with the community before the decisions are made. So I appreciate the sponsor allowing for there to be a deferral, but I would also ask that the council member of that district is included and that a meeting is actually held. And I don't know if one meeting deferral would be adequate or if it needs to be two, just to give. I mean, I understand, I know this is something that you want to get done during this term, but I don't know if it's necessary that it gets done during this term if it's still not well with the residents that will be directly impacted. So I guess if we move expeditiously and we do a real big push towards meeting with the community and ensure that they are in place, I think it will be fine. But without that, I don't think it would be adequate. And so I'm really asking for that type of engagement.
So your comments are certainly on the record and noted, and we've got a motion on the floor for one meeting deferral to see if we can get that accomplished. Any more discussion on the deferral motion? Seeing none, all in favor of one meeting deferral? Any opposed? All right, we recommend the bill as amended be deferred one meeting. Let's see here. Okay, now we'll move to BL 2023-2018. Withers and other sponsors authorize 1010 Church Owner LLC to install, construct, and maintain serial and underground encroachments in the right-of-way located 1010 Church Street. There moved and properly seconded. There is a proposed amendment from Councilmember Withers. I don't see him here. I can move the amendment. It looks like the amendment is to delete the current exhibit to the ordinance and replacing with it attached to the amendment. And do you want to explain that any further, or you think that's sufficient? That's sufficient. So I've moved the amendment. Do I have a second? All right, the amendment's on the floor. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? All right, the amendment passes. Now we are on the bill as amended. Any discussion on the bill as amended? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, I believe that's the end of our agenda. Anything else anybody wants to bring to the attention for the good of the committee? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all for attending.